to do this. Just frantically pressing buttons around here right now, so we'll see what happens. Ba-ba-da-da. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Have we done something? I think we might have done. It's a bit of a wee lag on the live stream, you see, so I'm trying to keep myself up to speed. All right. Okay, we're away. We're doing some stuff. Welcome. Hi to my welcome to trending. Yes. Now that we've got all that going. Yeah, Josh is away today. So I kind of love the challenge of this because it means I've got to look after all our live stream elements as well as keep you in the loop as we go today. So thanks for bearing with me. If you're just on the radio, then, well, actually, you won't hear any of this, so that won't help you at all. There we go. Look at me up on a screen there too. Is it just me or is the grey streak coming through a lot more clearly these days? I'm just looking on the, there we go. Wait, it's hard to do this in reverse. Just, it's not just the light, everybody. I'm getting more distinguished. Silver Fox material right here, baby. Woo! You really got to make peace with how you look and how you sound doing this kind of job. So it's remarkable how long you can do this and not be used to that kind of behavior. Oh, I've disappeared. Where have I gone? It's all right. I'm sure they'll have it all sorted in time, team. Don't you worry. We are going to go through some news headlines today. Quite the range of stories. Some a bit political, but that's all right. Actually, I don't know if we've covered a lot of heavily political stuff lately, have we? Hard to say. Also, I can tell that my Teams chat is pinging away like mad in the background because my producer is frantically organizing Monday's show like the legend that she is. So thanks, Becky, but I'm going to mute you for now because that's enough. It only takes so much being organized by other people in one given day. What else is happening? Let's have a look. The sun is shining. It is warm in here. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Is it warm where you are? Been surprised how much it's racked up the temperature in the last little while. But we like that. I'd much rather be too warm than too cold. I just feel maybe I've dug a hole for myself in dressing up a little too much for this show. Often I've worn like more of a jacket than a suit jacket style thing than just wearing a t-shirt or something. But it's getting to the point where we might have to just revert back to just t-shirts and shirts and such around here. I'm probably trying to keep it too fancy for an online show anyway, right? Have you seen how internet people dress? Goodness me. It's embarrassing. Kids these days, back in my day, blah, blah, blah. Unrelated side note too. You notice the difference when you walk past somebody who's, say, 40, 50 plus versus anybody younger? It's almost like they're told to avoid eye contact at all costs. So I kind of like walking past older people because you know they're actually going to look at you when you talk to them. I just think it's nice. Why would you not want to talk to people when you can? Water bottle ready to go. It's all very exciting. We've got about, I don't know, a minute, not even that, worth of some ads and some weather and so on, and then we're into it. So maybe should I just get myself organized? Should I get myself started? All very exciting. Thanks for being part of the show. Right, I'm going to get us ready to go. So, again, remember, the show's about you. If you're already on the stream, then do jump in the chat and say hello. I'm going to try and keep tabs on that. I'm going to shut this guy up, though, because he's talking away in the background. See if we can keep an eye on the chat going. There we are. Like 5 screens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens going at a time. My millennial mind is cooking. Let's do it. And you'll find those words in Galatians 6, verse 9.
Live on air and online. Trending with Andrew Curtis.
It is my favorite time of the week, so no my, hi to my. Welcome to Trending. We've sent Kat home early on a Friday because it's my chance to spend an hour with you going through the news that you choose. Now you might think to yourself, nobody asked me my opinion on the news. How do you know? Well, we live in the age of the algorithm, don't we? So on Google right now and through our other major news services, there are records of what the most popular news stories have been. And I find this fascinating because, well, sometimes what you see leading the nightly news and then what you see other people going to look for more information about doesn't exactly line up. In other words, there's the news stories that we're told that we should care about and the news stories that we reveal we actually care about by searching for more information about it, banging it into Google, or maybe going to our major news services and seeing what the most popular stories are. This show is a chance to go through those things, find out what's going on, and probably most importantly, hear from you in the process. And there's a couple of ways that you can say hello this morning. One of those being joining the live stream. If you've ever wondered what the inside of a radio studio looks like, you can find out. No longer wonder, my friend. Head along to rema.co.nz. You'll see we've got a link for our Facebook and also our YouTube pages. Click through to either one of those and you'll see we've got a live stream running so you can see what color is my jumper. That's my challenge for you today. That's how I'll know you're actually watching the live stream. If you can tell me that, you can jump in the chat. There's a chat function on both Facebook and YouTube, so you can say hello. Maybe let us know where in the country that you are joining the stream from. Of course, if you are listening via the radio, which you're always welcome to do, then you can get in touch that way by sending through a text 8168 with the first word REMA and let us know your thoughts on the varying stories that we cover throughout the course of the day. I should also ask for a little bit of your indulgence this morning because producer Josh has the day off today. And so I am piloting the ship solo. My first mate is away today. But I kind of look forward to challenges like this. Do you ever have this? Like, yeah, it's going to be a little more challenging with one more thing to think about it. But at the same time, I've seen other internet people do this all the time. How hard could it possibly be? We're all going to find out together. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to try and make sure the stream stays on track for you watching and also makes perfect sense for those of you listening at home. So with all that in mind, let's make sure everything is where it needs to be. I've literally got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens in front of me right now. What could possibly go wrong? We'll find out together. Let's dive into our first news story for the day.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Sneaking in under the auspices of the #1 trending news story on the Guardian website in the UK. We love to go international with these things because it gives you an insight into the stories that have captured people's interest around the world. How much do you think they line up with the things that capture our attention here in New Zealand? And at the risk of giving you a bit of a spoiler alert, I do find there is quite the difference. Quite a difference in the stories that matter around the world. American news sites, for example, tend to have American news at the front and center. But there is a website from the UK that also seems to have a special place in its heart for American news. And this week is no different. On the Guardian website in the UK, we're going to take a look at the #1 most read story there. I am the only one that matters. Donald Trump deals praise and insults at the Gaza summit. So bringing it up right now, there we go. For those of you watching along at home, this is a classic case of a little bit of clickbait, quite frankly, because yes, there was the Gaza summit. This is actually all related to the peace plan that Donald Trump has put forward, has now been accepted by Israel. It's been accepted by Hamas. And I think probably most notably, it's been accepted by a lot of the nations that back up the Hamas regime. So we're talking about Turkey here. We're talking about Jordan, I think was one of them. Maybe Egypt was in the mix. But of course, the headline that catches the attention here, I am the only one that matters. Now, look, Donald says plenty of stuff that you could haul him across the coals for. But in this case, he has been clickbaited a little bit. Have a listen to this and see what he was really talking about when he declared to the world that he was the only one that mattered.
We have Hungary. Oh, Victor, where is Victor? Victor. We love Victor. Victor, I call him. You know, I put the little accent on it. You are fantastic, all right? I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but I'm the only one that matters. You are fantastic.
So there you go. I'm the only one that matters when it comes to the world's opinion of Viktor Orban, who is, I believe, the president of, I want to say Hungary. He's somebody who's come up for a lot of criticism because he's maintained a pretty hardline conservative stance on a bunch of stuff. And people look to Hungary in particular because of the way that they have tried to increase birth rate and promote family and all this kind of stuff and draw the line between who is and who is not allowed to immigrate into the country. Big question in Europe right now. But that's what that was really about. I am the only one that matters was really talking about his opinion of Viktor Orban. That was the only thing that matters. So a little bit of clickbait, but that was enough to get that story to the #1 spot in the Guardian website, news website in the UK. We're going to play a little bit more of this, and for those of you who are listening along, I'll provide a wee bit more of a running commentary here, but the clip itself was Trump greeting world leaders with his typical push and pull handshake at the Gaza summit in Egypt. So we've got a clip of this playing right now. It's a great opportunity for you to go to rema.co.nz, click through to the Facebook or YouTube links, so you can see the typical push-pull handshake. I've actually not heard this description before of Donald Trump's handshake, but let's have a wee look at, the push-pull handshake in action. Playing a wee bit of the clip now, and it is a little bit of an arm wrestle, isn't it? He's, tapping the back of the hand, also with other world leaders. This time around, just happy to stand next to Erdogan, who's the president of Turkey.
And Cyprus, Egypt, the European Union, it's a lot of countries. France, thank you very much, Emmanuel. I would imagine Emmanuel standing someplace behind me. Where is he? I can't believe it. You're taking a low-key approach today.
It's like a school assembly, isn't it? It's like a school assembly. Your principal gets up there and just starts like free-versing the whole thing. No plans in place, but anyway, this is really all it was. Everybody got together for peace in the Middle East. Kumbaya. Will it last? We don't know, because the only thing they cared about on The Guardian in the UK was whether or not Trump was the only one that mattered.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
But do Māori wards matter? That is a much spicier question. That was the number 22 searched term in New Zealand in the last week. The number 22, not massively high, is it? But nevertheless, it was a topic of discussion, generated a lot of positive feeling, a lot of negative feeling, depending on where in the country you are, because a whole bunch of places decided they were no longer to keep the Māori wards, and everybody was looking to find their own take on this one too. So do you have thoughts on the Māori wards? Should we have kept them everywhere? Should we have got rid of them? You can get in touch, 8168 with the first word Rema, or jump on the chat in our Facebook or YouTube streams and let us know your thoughts there. I'm going to do a quick check of said streams and see if I've missed anything. I think we're okay for now. All right, let's see how the New Zealand Herald covered this story about 25 Māori wards being disestablished following referendum results.
Regions voted and said no thanks to Māori wards at the weekend. Of the 42 councils that held a referendum on it, 17 voted to keep, 25 voted to remove. Cam Luxton is the ACT Party's local government spokesperson, joining us this morning. Morning.
Good morning, all right.
And Celia Wade-Brown is the Greens Democracy and Electoral Reform spokesperson. Celia, good morning to you. Morena.
Morena.
Good to have you on the show. What did you make, Celia, of the result, the fact that, I mean, it wasn't probably the ringing rejection that the ACT Party would have liked, but it certainly wasn't a ringing endorsement of those Māori wards.
I think we have to look at the change over time. I mean, between 2002 and 2019, 16 councils had to have a poll on whether to have Māori wards, and only one council made it through. That was Aotearoa. This time, we've got 17 councils have made it through. So I think there's a big move towards recognising the value of Māori wards, despite this government punching down on Te Treaty.
Okay, what is your take on it, Cam?
Get ready, New Zealand. This is PBT.
You've got to be kidding me. They're going to start sneaking ads into my news stories? What are you doing? All right, let's get back to it.
Well, I think it's interesting. Celia talks about the history. I mean, the right of local New Zealanders in every part of New Zealand to vote on these Māori wards was taken away by the Labour government. Fortunately, this government, with campaigning for it, got Māori ward referendums back for New Zealanders. And when the New Zealand public's given the democratic right to have their say, this is what we've got. 25 councils have dismissed it. and said we don't want to be divided by race. We want to have ourselves and our neighbours treated as equal and valuable citizens in this country.
All right.
So it's been a great result for those 25 councils that otherwise wouldn't have got a chance.
Celia, is there an example you can point to of an outcome that has been improved for Māori in an area where there is a Māori council, a Māori ward?
Well, I think the examples are numerous about how bringing a Māori voice to the decision-making table does make a difference. I'd like to look at Whakatū Nelson as an example. 2012, they had a poll on whether to have a Māori ward, and that was lost. Only 20% of people were in favour. They went ahead after the legislation changed, and you didn't have to ask all the Pākehā about how Māori should vote. The Māori ward was a success, and Nelson Whakatū voted to keep their Māori ward.
Yes,
56.
Celia, I'm just, what is it? What
So
is
that's
success?
a big difference.
Yeah, but what is success? Can you, like, tangibly, how have Māori ratepayers benefited from Māori wards? Can you say there's an area where, you know, the roads are better for them, or the waste collection is better? You know, what tangible benefit is there?
I think the knowledge of the land, the knowledge of the whenua, and the knowledge of the rivers actually being at the table rather than sometimes a bunch of stale, pale males deciding whether or not to consult with Māori is a big step forward. This country was based on Te Treaty in 1840, and we should honour it.
All right. Cam, what do you make of that, the pale male style thing? They don't really have much of an idea about rivers and lakes and things like that.
I mean, your viewers can see that I am a male, and I'm a Pākehā. Me and my family, my children, we have a huge connection to the nature and the whenua and the rivers and lakes and sea in this area that I love, the Bay of Plenty. It's kind of, this is the sort of conversation that infuriates people deep down. They have trouble expressing it sometimes, saying, you know, don't treat me as different, don't treat my neighbour as different. When people have a chance to have their say, 25 councils have voted to keep it, but, you know, Ryan, 17 councils, 25 voted to get rid of it, but 17 councils have voted to keep it. I mean, that is quite disturbing to people who share the value that all New Zealanders are alike in dignity and respect, and we should have equal values.
So that's the discussion going on. Let's see if we can make all this stuff work with us this morning in the studio on the live stream. So let's do this. There we are. There I am. I'm trying to figure out how to do all the cameras and such as I go this morning as well. So bear with me, but that was the discussion that was held around the presence of Māori wards and Māori representation. At some point, I think somebody needs to have a word to those who are advocates for Māori wards and say, you got to drop this pale, stale male thing. Man, like, I know that plays really well to your base, but I got to be honest, as at least a pale male, I don't know if I'm stale necessarily. I'll put that vote out to you guys to decide. But all you are going to do is rock people up. If the idea is representation for Māori, can I just say my own 2 cents on this one? I do like the fact that it's gone to a referendum because this does, of course, involve representation, and people who wanted it got to say, yes, we do. People who didn't got to have their say as well. But if you keep falling back on this trope that it's just a bunch of racist or white people who are getting in the way of it, you kill the conversation, don't you? You kill the conversation immediately. You've still got a country that is, you know, about 60-odd% Pākehā anyway. So maybe their PR department needs to have a wee bit of a think. And having said that too, there were different articles on this topic. Depending on your perspective, as you saw there in that story, or maybe heard, 25 councils said no, 17 said yes. But at Te Aotearoa News, they pointed out that over 400,000 people voted yes, almost twice as many as those who voted no. What does that mean? Let's bring this up on the screen. There we go. It means that probably in the cities that really wanted it, they really, really wanted it. Right? The populations who voted for it were larger in general. So there were more yes votes in total, even though in a council level, more councils said no than yes. Does that make sense? 25 said no, 17 said yes. Well, how does this work? Well, the councils who really wanted it were bigger in general. So those who wanted it, really wanted it, everyone's got their spin, don't they? Everyone's got their spin. And I thought, to be honest, Ryan Bridge pointed it out pretty well at the start. It wasn't exactly a massive win for either party. I know the ACT Party have made much a case of saying, it's one government for all, therefore we should have all got rid of it. That didn't happen. Of course, those who said it's a way of trying to increase representation for Māori, well, they didn't get what they wanted either. So make of that what you will, but what did you think about it? Do you have any thoughts on this one? Charmaine got in touch. Māori wards are simply racist, as evidenced by her racist comments. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, right? You can't really make an argument against something and then fall back on racist tropes to try and make your argument. They're racist because they're all white people. You might want to rethink that argument, love.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Is that about patronising? Can you call people love on the radio these days? Probably not. Moving on to something else, still political, but is this more of a feel-good story? More of a comeback story, perhaps? Andrew Little is in at number 14 in the search terms this week. Andrew Little, the man who gave us Jacinda Ardern. And half of you think that was great, and half of you think I've just sworn on the radio. Andrew Little, well, he's dipped out of general politics. Do you call it general politics? Governmental politics? It's all government, really, isn't it? He's the new mayor of Wellington. That's what we're trying to get to this morning. He is the new mayor of Wellington. And so he's turning his focus to Wellington's big issues. But before we get into all that, let's see how this was covered on One News, announcing some of the changes from the local body elections.
Former Labour Party leader Andrew Little is one of the winners in the local government elections as progress results are continuing to roll in. The former minister and union leader is new mayor of Wellington. Wayne Brown was re-elected to lead our biggest city, and in Christchurch, Phil Major has retained the Christchurch mayoralty. After a tumultuous first term, Ben Bell is back as the mayor of Gore. And in Upper Hutt, Perry Z is a first-time winner, beating 8-time mayor Wayne Guppy for the city's top job.
Wow.
Nationwide, 1,500 positions across 78 councils have to be filled on city, district and regional councils. With more, Abby Wakefield.
Well, we'll cover that a little bit later on in the show, because without giving too much away, let me just say that local government elections do feature in our trending news, perhaps more than you might expect. But for now, Andrew Little, Wellington's new mayor-elect, he said he's begun very fruitful discussions about the term ahead after a landslide win on Saturday saw him romp into the mayoralty, the 25,000 vote majority. Don't we all love a mayoral romp? Mind you, wasn't there an Auckland mayor who... No, I'll get in trouble if I start talking about that. The point is this. He's very pleased. He's very pleased. He was speaking to some of the papers on the phone on Monday, said he's spoken to all the elected councillors, blah, 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 blah. They went through sort of the big issues. That was according to Wellington Council Chief Executive Matt Prosser. So now he is back at the top. Back at the top, having stepped down from the leadership of the Labour Party and now decided that local politics is for him. He's now the mayor of Wellington. And let's hope he can only do better than Tory Whanau. If she turns up, I know this is not a Tory Whanau story, but I have to ask you, if she turns up on the Green Party list, I mean, come on. Really? Really? I struggle. I struggle with some of these things. Do you have any thoughts on this? Andrew Little becoming the mayor of Auckland, does it excite you? Does it stoke your fires, as it were? Get in touch with me today. You can text through 8168 with the first word Rima. Or you can do what Charmaine did, jump in on the messages within the chat. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm doing a hand gesture for this, which will mean nothing to anybody listening via the radio. But that's what the chat looks like. It's a box that I'm doing in the air. You can jump into the chat on Facebook or on YouTube Live. Just head to rima.co.nz. Click through to either the YouTube or Facebook pages there and jump in the chat. Let us know your thoughts on our trending news stories for the week.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And if you just joined me, what is a trending news story? Well, these are the ones that have been popping up in Google. People have been trying to find out more information about, and I find this fascinating because sometimes it runs contrary to maybe the leading news stories for, well, what turns up on our nightly news headlines. If you're still watching the regular 6 o'clock news, that should be another question we do, by the way, at some point, shouldn't it? Do you still watch the nightly news at 6 p.m? Our house used to shut down at 6 p.m. Nobody was allowed to talk, especially when the weather came on for some reason. But let us continue to march through these headlines, and we're in at number 12 now. And the Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 was your number 12 search term in the country in the last week. Isn't that lovely? awarded to Maria Corina Machado. She's been awarded her Nobel Peace Prize and some expert political maneuvering from her as well. But let's see what happened when CNN were able to speak to her about the win and what it means for her work.
Welcome to the program, Maria Corina Machado. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So how do you feel? Because you have been toiling for all these years in danger, to try to change the system in Venezuela. How do you feel about this moment?
Well, we are very honored, grateful, and excited because it's a recognition for a whole society that over 26 years has worked tirelessly, has struggled, and has suffered much harm from a tyranny that it's not a conventional dictatorship. It is a criminal structure, a narco-terrorist structure that has taken over our country, our institutions, our resources, that has brought poverty intentionally and had made a third of our population, the largest migration crisis in the world. A third of our population have been forced to flee Christianity. So we have done great things together. We have worked civically. We won an election last year, presidential election, even though it was in very unfair, extreme conditions. And this is a confirmation that the world is supporting the cause for democracy and freedom in our region.
And you're in hiding. We're not revealing your location, but you are in Venezuela, which is pretty extraordinary given your situation. Do you think that this Nobel somehow puts a further shield around you? And how will you use it, the recognition, and I assume, I'm not sure, but I think there's money that comes with it, in the struggle?
Well, I do think it increases the cost for the regime to further harm me. After we won the elections, a few hours afterwards, I was accused of terrorism and all these, all the crimes you can imagine from the regime. The worst repression wave was unleashed. We are talking about thousands and thousands of volunteers that were disappeared or imprisoned. Their homes were marked with crosses just because they were defending the vote. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights have called this terrorism of state. The fact-finding mission of the United Nations have called these as crimes against humanity. I'm talking about even children that were in prison, women tortured and abused just because they defended their votes. So, of course, we're all under, great harm. There are over 850 prisoners of war that are, our heroes under Maduro's strength. And this is a difficult moment, but I am absolutely convinced that we are finally at the threshold of freedom and democracy, because finally all vectors have aligned and the regime is weaker than ever.
So that's the winner of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize, Maria Corina Machado. And I thought I'd play a little bit more of that because knowing about the situation in Venezuela, it's not something we cover a lot in New Zealand. I think the US loves to cover it because for a lot of news outlets, it's also a clarion call of the risks of socialism. And they love a bit of that. Love a bit of that in the US. If they can say, look at communists over there and aren't they all suffering? They're big fans for some weird reason because there's still this, I don't know, commercial aspect to news that they can't help themselves. In New Zealand, though, we don't really cover it a heck of a lot. So now you have a little bit of insight as to what's been going on there. But in something of a political masterstroke, Machado has also dedicated her win to Donald Trump. In fact, Trump made a backhanded acknowledgement of Machado's win, saying that the person who actually got the Nobel Prize called me and said, I'm accepting this honor of you because you really deserved it. Trump added that it was a nice thing to do. Now, of course, this is reference to what he's managed to achieve with the Middle East. I want to know your thoughts on this one. We asked this very briefly last week, but out the back of this Nobel Peace Prize discussion and the fact that it was the number 12 story in the country in the last week, do you reckon Nobel Prize for Peace should go to Donald Trump maybe next year if this peace treaty holds up in the Middle East? It was pretty fresh when maybe the voting was concluded. So I can understand how he might have missed out in 2025. But, I mean, if it works out, this is also, of course, the same president who brought about the Abraham Accords and peace treaties between Israel and a lot of other Arab nations, which was pretty remarkable. But now, being in a situation where he might have been able to stop a war that transcends his presidency. Of course, it started under the Biden administration. They weren't able to do anything. Donald Trump comes in somehow. Peace is achieved. Surely that's worth a Nobel Peace Prize, even if we don't like the way he might conduct himself publicly every now and then. What are your thoughts on that? 8168 with the first word, Rima, or join the chat today. Go to rima.co.nz, click through to either YouTube or Facebook Live and let me know, do you think Donald Trump should maybe win the Nobel Peace Prize for 2026?
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Thank you for your texts as well coming through. We were talking about the Māori wards a little earlier, and Penny got in touch to say, totally agree with you, Andrew. These stale, pale male comments do not help anything, and they're not even a fair description of most. This is right. Of course, this is after a Green Party representative was speaking about the Māori wards being rejected in 25 locations around the country, though they were voted in another 17. My point here was that if you do want to have a constructive conversation about Māori wards and their importance for Māori representation, that is one thing. But if you fall back on your own racist tropes to try and call everybody else racist, you take a shotgun to both feet and blow them clean off of the ankles, don't you? Kevin got in touch to say, interesting conversation on the Māori wards. The people have voted, and they voted no to them. What part of no don't the naysayers understand? And by the way, the white cis male rhetoric that's being bandied around is just a sickening racial slur that has no place in our democracy. The white cis male thing's a whole other gender-related discussion. But to be fair, Kevin, not everybody did say no. We had 17 councils where it was established that they would keep Māori wards, and a lot of New Zealanders did decide to keep them. So in that respect, in a representative democracy, if this is something you're going to do, I appreciate the fact that they did put it to the people at least, as opposed to just deciding you're going to go ahead with it without consulting your electorate. So is it effective? I mean, again, another question that was asked during the interview there with Ryan, what's his name? That's terrible. Sorry, mate. Talking about what's going on with the Māori wards. Have they produced a discernible difference? Do they actually make a difference? Does life get better if you had them or not? Surely that's a question that you can ask as well. Right? Wrong? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts today. 8168 with the first word, Rima. Or you can jump in the chat by heading to rima.co.nz, clicking through to the live stream, saying hello, giving me a virtual wave in our chat today. And maybe you can let us know about your thoughts on Māori wards or whether or not Donald Trump should get himself the Nobel Peace Prize.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Ooh, I'm just going to take a moment and just take a deep breath because I've got a lot of buttons to press around me right now, trying to stay on top of everything. And so thanks to everyone who has already kind of reached out today. I do feel bad that my brain's kind of short-circuited a little bit on some of the key news services that we use. But nevertheless, here we are. Where should we go to next? Let's take a look at our number. Oh, gosh. I'm not happy about this. I'm not happy about this. Usually, I have no problem covering the news stories that pop up in our search trends. But look, it is a mirror to the face of humanity. It is a mirror to what your neighbors are really interested in. And so, it is with deep regret that I inform the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand, that the number 10 news story in the country is Justin Trudeau. And why is he in the news stories? Because he's dating Katy Perry. Woo! Talk about from the sublime to the ridiculous, right? We were talking about Donald Trump, Nobel Peace Prize. Who's winning the mayoralty? Justin Trudeau. Now he's dating Katy Perry. Wow. That is the duality of man, ladies and gentlemen. That is the kind of stuff that Kiwis love to get excited about. And so he is in there at number 10. Justin Trudeau is dating Katy Perry. Wow. Look, as much as I might scoff at this, I can understand the appeal on some level. I mean, you know, this is a former Prime Minister of Canada and a pop star, a couple of celebrities getting together, kissing on a boat, apparently. The scandal of it all. It's one thing to kiss somebody, but to kiss them on a boat. I draw the line at aquatic romances. What do you think this is? The Little Mermaid? That's not even real. I do love, though, how this has been covered around the world. So to make this bearable for my own self, we're going to take a look at some of the headlines that went with this. Look, if I have to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it, all right? The Times of India. This is great. This is great. This treats the story with the respect that it deserves. Is Justin Trudeau dating Katy Perry to cope with a midlife crisis? Mwah! Chef's kiss. God bless you, Times of India. Then there's a follow-up. Brace yourself. Put your fingers in your children's ears. Sources say he is, quote, sowing his oats again after a divorce. Right. Times of India, you need to calm down. You need to sit in a corner by yourself for a little while. All right? Let's see how it's been covered in New Zealand. The New Zealand Herald, in fact. Katy Perry cheekily hints at rumoured Trudeau romance. Ooh, shortly after being pictured together on her yacht. I suppose it's good to know he doesn't have a yacht. Like, you'd feel uncomfortable, right, if your Prime Minister managed to have enough money set aside to go buy himself a yacht. It was all that COVID vaccine money. Ooh, Bill Gates sent it to him. Ooh, Atlas Fund. Ooh. I'm stirring the pot, aren't I? She's seemingly referenced this. She's referenced this romance with Justin Trudeau at a recent concert. She said, no wonder I fall for Englishmen all the time, but not anymore. Bum, bum, bum. Unbelievable. Last one then, we're going to go to People magazine here. Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau kiss on a PDA-filled yacht outing in California. Did you need to know that? No, you didn't, but I did, so now you have to know as well. Goodness me. PDA-filled yacht outing. Please, Lord, make me never appear in a headline featuring a PDA yacht outing. I mean, I would be with my wife, though, of course, so that would be, like, semi-okay, but at the same time. Do you want to know how much PDA happens between my wife and I? I don't think you do. And you know what? Fair enough, because God bless you, hope you have a great relationship, I don't need to know about the amount of PDA in your relationship either. You just PDA away, and that is fine. I don't need to know. You don't need to know. We can all go ahead and not knowing, except in this case, of course, because, well, he was the number 10 search term in the country. Justin Trudeau. Do you want to know more? Huh? Do you want to know more? Text me in if you want to know more about Justin Trudeau dating Katy Perry. Number 10 story, 8168 with the first word Rima if you want to send me a text. Otherwise, of course, jump in the chat. Go to rima.co.nz. Watch the show with me today, flying solo, pressing lots of buttons today. And so it's a bit stumbly in parts, but we're doing all right. So let's continue to march through the day, shall we?
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Ooh, here we go. Look at this. We've got Anna getting in touch via the chat today. What does she have to say? Populations all over the world are being dumbed down. They don't have time to research and just go along with a headline or what their friends think. Booze, probably books is what that's supposed to say. Booze and history are not encouraged. You probably shouldn't encourage booze. It's a bit rude, isn't it? Books and history are not encouraged. In fact, discourage any attempt to find the truth is maligned. Well, I mean, there's a lot to be said too lately about what your sources of truth might be. A lot of media and even governments kind of overplayed their hand, I feel, especially in the COVID era, the risk of bringing up the C word on trending. And so now it's kind of just, it doesn't matter what these people say, we just don't want to hear it anymore. And it's interesting too, often when people repudiate experts, it's often because they've got other experts. It's not because there's no experts anymore. It's just they don't like the official experts. Because everyone needs an expert, right? Let's be honest. I am not equipped to tell you about medical science. For example, off the top of my head, based on my own knowledge, what I've researched, probably not a resource in and of myself, so I will go with somebody else who knows. How do you determine who you can trust, who you can't trust? I mean, for many, just the fact that somebody is a official source of information is the reason why you don't trust them. So who do you trust, right? Your mates on Facebook. That's what you do, don't you?
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Now, another name that has popped up in the search terms, and in fact, this is soaring up the ranks. It was number 8 only yesterday, but I'm going to do a quick double check right now and see where he's at because, yes, Jim Bolger is now number 5 in the search terms in this country. Former Prime Minister Jim Bolger. He is the earliest Prime Minister in my recollection. I can remember there being a debate on TV between him and Mike Moore. Lord, how old was I then? Maybe 10, something like that. The beginnings of becoming a political animal. But Jim Bolger passed away at the age of 90, and so a lovely piece that was prepared by the New Zealand Herald to commemorate his life and times. Let's take a look at that together now.
Former New Zealand Prime Minister Jim Bolger has died, aged 90. Bolger was Prime Minister for 7 years and led the National Party for 11 years. He had been undergoing kidney dialysis several times a day since kidney failure last year. One of Bolger's most important legacies was the conclusion of the first of the Treaty of Waitangi settlements between Crown and Iwi. James Brendan Bolger was born in 1935 in Opunake, Taranaki, the son of Irish immigrants Daniel and Cecilia, who arrived in New Zealand in 1930. His Irish Catholic roots remained important to him throughout his life. He left school at 15 without sitting School C and went to work on the family farm. He went on to marry Joan Riddell and buy a beef and cattle farm. He became involved in farming politics and was elected as an MP in 1972. He went on to lead New Zealand from 1990 to 1997 before being ousted by Jenny Shipley. Bolger went on to serve as ambassador to the United States for several years. A committed Republican, Bolger turned down a knighthood on his retirement and went on to take on multiple other roles. He chaired the newly created Kiwi Bank and later led a working party on fair pay agreements for the Jacinda Ardern-led government. Bolger's political views changed over time. The former National Party leader revised his neoliberal economic policies, concluding that the growth they produced had gone to the top. After the 2020 election, he said what was needed was reimagining capitalism. Bolger was known for being forthright in his views, acquiring the nickname the Great Helmsman during his time as Prime Minister. He recently celebrated his 90th birthday, alongside his wife Joan and their 9 children.
So Jim Bolger has passed away at the age of 90, and that is what got him to, well, as of right now, about the number 5 position in the Google search terms. I imagine he might climb even further. Remarkable story, though, for Jim Bolger and his life and times, and again, how his political views had changed. 9 children, though, eh? It certainly kind of puts a marker in time about, well, when you were born and what mattered back then. Who has 9 children these days? If you have 9 children, let me know. If you have 9 children today, but what do you remember about Jim Bolger? I mean, as I say, for me, he was, if he was Prime Minister in 1990, I guess I would have been about 9 years old, so that's not a bad guess on my front. I remember, of course, being involved. He was involved in bringing in MMP in this country, had the first MMP government with good old Winston Peters. Isn't that crazy to think about? 1990. He was in coalition with Winston Peters. Jim Bolger's passed away, and Winston Peters is still in government. Amazing. Amazing stamina. Turned down a knighthood as well. Would you have turned down a knighthood? I don't know. I've thought about how my name would sit with a knighthood, but I'd have to figure out what it would be for. You don't want to get it for something silly, do you? Services to, unicycle servicing in New Zealand or something. Services to broadcasting? Maybe. Not exactly Paul Holmes, though, am I? Do you reckon Mike Hosking will get a knighthood? These are the questions that we wonder when we're left to our own devices today. Thank you for your texts as well. Continuing to come in this morning. Great time on the old text machine. 8168 with the first word, Rima. Mark got in touch. No, please. No, no. No more Justin Trudeau. Well, look, it's not up to me, is it? I'll let the story go for the day, though, just for you, Mark. We won't cover this one anymore. But something about that guy that just, I don't know. Similar-ish to how the media feels about Jacinda Ardern, right? Large contingent, very strong feelings, never want to see or hear from her again. Other contingent, want to know what she had for breakfast, what color her socks are, and all that kind of stuff. So I have no doubt he'll pop up again, hopefully without another pop star in tow.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Right, what else we got? What else we got as we march towards the end of the show? Gush, we're only got about 10 minutes to go as well. Having a look now. Christchurch Airport came in at number 6 this week. I think maybe inspired by what had happened the previous week. There was like a bird strike on a plane coming out of Fiji. And so decided to do the same thing we did last time around with this, and that is to see how different news stories how the same news story was covered by different news services. And so, let's take a wee look at this one, shall we? Very matter of fact, starting off with Radio New Zealand. Flight returns to Christchurch after reporting issue shortly after takeoff. Passengers reported seeing blood on the plane. Wow. And feeling dizzy from going around in circles on a Fiji Airways flight that encountered a bird strike above Canterbury on Thursday afternoon. Right. So is this just the same story from last week, but still doing the rounds? Isn't that mad? The New Zealand Herald. Now, this is fascinating because if you go to the New Zealand Herald right now, here we are on the live stream, taking a look at this one, you'll see the headline that's up there says, wait a minute. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. There we go. Christchurch Airport emergency. Fiji Airways plane lands safely after bird strike. All right. Seems rather matter of fact. They've changed it though, haven't they? They've changed it because if you check out the Google search terms, the original headline said blood and damage. Blood and damage, blood and damage. Go together like a horse. And if you know that song, you are old as. Blood and damage. Fiji Airways flight lands after a bird strike sparks airport emergency. If you know that song, by the way, send through the actual name for it. I just want to poll the audience. Who knew what I was referencing? With that little musical interlude. 8168 with the first word, Rima, or jump in the chat. Go on, idea. Yes, Fiji Airways flight lands after bird strike sparks airport emergency. But the pick of the bunch has to be this one, coming in from stuff.co.nz, a big dent and a bloody smear. Now, would that be the byline to somebody's biography? How can a bird cause so much damage to a plane? Yeah, this is actually the same story from last week, but for some reason, people were still searching about it this week. Go figure. Go figure. A big dent and a bloody smear, though. Whose biography would that be? A big dent and a bloody smear. Maybe if you were like a forward in the All Blacks, you know, running into people, that sort of stuff. Hard to say. A big dent and a bloody smear. How could a bird cause so much damage to a plane? It was the number 6 trending news story in the last week. Unbelievable. Christchurch Airport. Yes! Shout out to my friend who just texted through 599, Rima, love and marriage. Correct. I think it was a Frank Sinatra too, wasn't it? Stop me if I'm wrong on that front. But yes, as opposed to, what did I say it was instead? Blood and damage? Anyway, let's move on, shall we? We've only got a few more minutes to cover our top news stories from the week. And thanks for bearing with me, by the way. I'm running solo today, so I'm pressing a lot of different buttons. There I am again, making sure you can see me today. But nevertheless, thank you for joining me on the live stream. You can still watch us for about another 5 or 6 minutes if you head to rema.co.nz and then click on through to either the Facebook or YouTube comments. 2 more stories to cover before we reach the pinnacle.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And this kind of follows up a little bit more from earlier conversations. Local elections 2025. This is fascinating to me. It was the number 2 trending news story in the country over the last week. But apparently, as popular as it was, nobody was voting. Nobody was getting out amongst it and actually having their say. Very low voter turnout. So Ryan Bridge. Ryan, my apologies, mate, because you do a great job also providing stories for us to talk about here. But my mind blanked earlier in the show and I couldn't remember his name. Isn't that terrible? Isn't that terrible? Too many things to do. That's the problem. Buttons over here, buttons over here. Things go up and down. All this kind of nonsense. So anyway, let's see what Ryan had to say on the New Zealand Herald about the low voter turnout in our local elections.
Where you live in the country, wherever it is, you will have started receiving your voting papers for this year's local body elections. I know, how exciting. Turnout is low. Less than half of eligible voters actually bother to vote. Scott Necklin is the Chief Executive at Local Government New Zealand with us this morning. Scott, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
What do you think is going to happen with turnout this year? Do you think that given the rates increases we've seen from local government, it might actually get more people out there putting their ballots in?
So traditionally, voter turnout is about 40%. We'd love to see that increase this time round. We know that one of the barriers to voting actually is access to information. And so we support policy.nz, which is an independent, neutral portal where candidates can go in, put in their information, put a bio. They can add information about what they stand for, including, their thoughts on, investment, infrastructure and rates, etc.
I just don't care. You know what? I did want to hear from that guy, but actually I've changed my mind. I've only got a few minutes left in this whole thing. Let's just get an app, shall we? Was it really access to information that was your problem? If you didn't vote in the local elections, I confessed that I, in fact, did not vote in my local body elections, but mostly because I couldn't be bothered. That's not a good reason, but I'm being honest with you about my flaws today, okay? You can be very upset. If you want to send an upset text, you can do that, 8168 with the first word REMA. I'm just saying I didn't do it because I couldn't be bothered. So why is there not an app for this? Surely we could have an app for this. We could have an app for all of our voting. Could we not? You can verify all your details somehow, maybe send you a PIN code or whatever. You can enter it. Maybe that would be the way to do it. They send you like a security PIN code or something. You go to the app, you punch it in there, and then you can vote for your local body person, and then you can vote for the general election a little bit later on. Maybe that'll do the trick. Big props, by the way. The messages that are flying in from Max and Carol also identified the song that I was singing earlier on. Yes, Love and Marriage. But I love this one from Carol because this is how I originally became familiar with the song. Later became the theme song for Married with Children on TV. That was one of those super no-no programs that you weren't allowed to watch. Is that true in your house? You watched Married with Children? It was pretty crass. It was pretty crass, but I was pretty young, so Mum and Dad very much held the power over the remote in our place, so not a lot of watching of that show. But certainly a great song, but now it's a bit tainted in my mind. I think of it very ironically. Last story that we have time to cover today in around about, 4 minutes? Something like that. The number one news story in the country. Anyone want to make a guess this morning? 8168 with the first word REMA, or jump in the chat. Go to rema.co.nz. Feeling the need to take a bit of a deep breath today. Take a bit of water perhaps, because, running the whole show by yourself, there's a lot to be done. A lot to be done. Delicious. Did you need to hear that? Probably not. Diane Keaton came in at number one this week, though unfortunately, because she had passed away. The age is 79. So can we squeeze in a little bit of this clip from 9 News in Australia, commemorating the life and times of Diane Keaton? She was your number one news story this week. Again, passing away at the age of 79.
Well, we begin this morning with that breaking news that Hollywood icon Diane Keaton has died at the age of 79. This news has just broken in the United States. The Oscar-winning actress, known for her roles in Annie Hall and The First Wives Club, passing away in California.
Let's take you to our US correspondent, Jonathan Kersley in Los Angeles. Jono, she leaves an extraordinary legacy.
An extraordinary legacy and no doubt heartbroken fans and heartbroken adopted children who she leaves behind. This news breaking in the last hour that Diane Keaton, who began a career on Broadway in the 1960s and starred on the silver screen for more than 50 years or so, has passed away age 79. Her career was catapulted with her performance in The Godfather, and then it was this role in the 1970s in Annie Hall alongside Woody Allen as his love interest. The pair would share an enduring professional and personal relationship, even defending Woody Allen when he was accused of molestation back in 2018. But Diane Keaton's career was enduring, it was expansive, it was extraordinary. She went on to not only The Godfather, but that role Annie Hall gave her the Oscar in 1978 for Best Actress. She would have other Oscar nominations too, but would go on to a glittering career in romantic comedies alongside some of the biggest names. There is First Wives Club, alongside some extraordinary actresses there, and also appearing alongside Jack Nicholson in, among other films, and also the incredibly funny Father of the Bride trilogy series. She was an extraordinary actress who has already been remembered by so many in the industry today as somebody who wasn't just wonderful on screen.
Oh, and then they just cut themselves off. They obviously got tired of the sound of their own voices. Well, God bless. So there we have Diane Keaton passing away at 79. Also, by the way, and this is a genuine compliment, fantastic selection of hats. Like her personal style was all built around having really cool hats. She just I can't wear hats. It's one of my things. I can wear glasses, but hats have just got a funny shaped head for it. I don't know. Maybe I got too big a head. That's the other problem. Not just figuratively too, by the way, like literally. It's enormous. I don't know how I stay standing upright. That's pretty much the end of the show for the day. Just taking through some of the other messages that have come through. Thanks again, Charmaine, for your thoughts. We might actually try and find a way of covering this next week, because often we like to talk about the stories not only that are covered, but the ones that get missed out. And Charmaine makes a great point that there's a lot of persecution of Christians in the world at the moment. Please cover that at the next opportunity, because the media are quiet about it. Look, you're absolutely right. It does not turn up in the news, does it? When was the last time you saw something on the nightly news in New Zealand, or even a leading news story about the situation, particularly in Nigeria, in fact, has been atrocious. It is, I mean, the word gets bandied about a lot, but I think it's quite valid in this context, a genocide against Christians in Nigeria. We don't hear much about that. So there could well be a story that we look to cover. You got about 30 seconds if you have another thought you want to send my way. So I'm checking out the Facebook feed right now. I'm checking out what's going on with our texts, 8168 with the first word Rima. Can I just say, by the way, a big thank you from me to you for you guys bearing with me, because I had a lot to keep my mind on today. Controlling the screens for the live stream, and then also bouncing between my stories, and Josh to bounce my thoughts off. So look, we've marched on through. Really appreciate you guys letting me know about your thoughts on everything from, old Frank Sinatra songs to Justin Trudeau, Mark. Also, people letting me know their thoughts on Māori wards, and just generally having a great time. So that is our lot for the day. We'll be back next Friday. Between 9 and 10, we're going to march through the news headlines that you have chosen through your search activity. So click wisely, Google safely, and I'll see you next Friday.